Earlier this year, there was some leaks about a new Pandemic game, but Z-Man has announced a whole new series introduced to the Pandemic line titled Pandemic: The Hot Zone Series. This is a bit of an abridged, shorter game, with the first one being Pandemic Hot Zone North America.
Yes, this will take the classic gameplay of Pandemic that you know and love and condense it to a shorter game time with fewer actions you can take, fewer cards required to cure diseases, fewer diseases that you need to cure. And as the title would imply, this one takes place only in North America. So you'll only be dealing with North America. There will only be one research center. You're not going to be building research centers or flying between them. It's a simplified version of Pandemic that is meant to be quicker and a better introductory game for people who are new to the board game scene. Of course, Pandemic already was a gateway game that I think was a lot of people's introduction to the board game world. But it sounds like this one is really going after a market of people who that is too much for, or maybe just for people who like Pandemic, but sometimes they want a quicker, simpler game experience that they can have or share with people who aren't interested in the meatier versions that are out there right now.
Yes, according to the article on Z-Man's own site, this actually sprung from a demo version of a Ticket to Ride game for board game stores. And when the designer took a look at it and actually built the shorter version, this is actually the first time he said he was able to convince his child to actually play a game of Pandemic. So this could also be a way to maybe introduce younger audiences in there without making it feel like it's the kid version, which I think is very nice in terms of respecting the children and the adults who don't have to sit through Candyland.
Yeah. And of course, it's an opportunity for Z-Man to now put out 6 or 7 brand new Pandemic games, all with pretty much the same gameplay, just different regions, I suppose. Maybe that depends on how well this first one sells to see if they'll actually, how many more of these hot zones they'll do. And this is not our first Pandemic spin-off series either. There was the Survival series, was it called, with all the fall of Rome and the different country themes.
Right. Because they whenever they held a contest, they would try to make a Pandemic based around wherever they were holding their Pandemic contest. But I think they decided to slow that down a bit to try to make maybe a bit more new and interesting Pandemic games.
Yeah, and I guess they're also taking some of the spots for those releases for this line. And yeah, I hope that it does well, and I hope that it sounds like it would be priced low, and I think that would be like maybe $15-20 for something like this would be a good bet. It sounds like it would still play with up to 4 players, unlike something like the some of the Ticket to Ride Express games, which I think are strictly for smaller numbers than the base. So that's also a nice thing to have in mind. I don't know if this is something for me or you, or probably a lot of people watching this channel specifically, that I think if you like Pandemic, you probably are fine with the way it is. You don't need a simpler version of it. But for other people, this could be something to enjoy and experience. So there's nothing wrong with trying to expand the market. You know, it's not a bad thing to have more variety for different types of people.
I'm gonna say, from reading the article, like, if you just told me about this, I would have been like, it probably should just be the demo version of the game. However, because they mentioned how he got his child to play, I am a bit more interested in it for it being a regular marketed item, because I like this idea of a smaller Pandemic that could fit maybe a younger audience, but doesn't feel like it's for them, so to speak. Like, it doesn't like, look, we made them look childish, and instead of viruses, it's puppies. You don't belittle the kids. I think they can understand, and especially now, what a disease is.
Yeah, well, they mentioned in the article they were originally going to unveil this at Toy Fair this year, but with everything going on with conventions right now, they pushed the announcement back. And even now, it does feel like I think they're walking a fine line here, because you're releasing a game, Pandemic, about fighting off disease. This one's called The Hot Zone, specifically about North America, and being in North America. We know what that's like right now. So I hope that they haven't announced anything, but this seems like a great opportunity for them to say, oh, we're going to take some of the profits from this and put them towards different charities or relief programs. Right now, they said it was supposed to originally come out in August. It sounds like they're still on track for that release date, but we'll see. Who knows anymore these days. But yeah, that's something. It is kind of a sensitive subject, more so than usual right now. And I wonder if that might harm or even help the sales of this or any other pandemic title.
I would lean a little bit more towards helping, at least in my mind. You never know with people. But for a lot of people, when you're cooped up and you're doing your best to try to help out, the idea of playing this much shorter game, especially if you're really new to board games, could help people feel like it's like watching a superhero movie. You don't actually go out and fight burglars or something, but you can pretend that it makes you feel good and that you're helping. So I don't see it too much as a negative. I mean, it doesn't directly make fun of it or in any way.
No, that's true. It's not. It doesn't make light of disease. I mean, some people could argue that, well, playing a game is inherently making light of it. But in terms of just looking strictly at the theme and the rule set, it is sort of taking as not super realistic, but in some sense, the idea of what it's like to try to fight disease in the world and putting you in the shoes of those people who are doing that. And there are real people doing it right now. So yeah, I think that presented in the proper light, this is an opportunity to help people, to teach people, to make this sort of thing, to help people understand what's going on and hopefully want to do more research and learn more about it on their own too.
Also, we should point out that unlike maybe something like sometimes when you see Kickstarters, like a Kickstarter that comes up to ride on whatever is currently in the news, Pandemic is a long traditioned game.
Yeah, they were doing it before it was cool, for sure. So we will stay tuned to find out exactly when the Hot Zone's coming out and how it plays, and we'll see. But if you want to let us know in the comments, you can. How you feel about this? Do you have someone that you know that would maybe be more inclined to play this than regular Pandemic? Or for you, or maybe you're somebody who's never played Pandemic and this is going to be your jumping on point. Talk to us down there. Until next time, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Will.
And this is Roll for Crit.
Get an inspiration token by supporting us on Patreon and liking and subscribing to this channel.
If you support us on Patreon, you'll get access to our audio expansion podcast. It's so good.